So I had a few requests to do a video about the hot dog cart. This is where we started. In 2018, I bought this tiny little hot dog cart from a man in Petaluma, who of course said it was ready to use. As with most hot dog cart sales, that was not the case. But that's okay, we just had to do some modifications to get it going. I used to haul it with my truck, but we knew when we got the trailer, we would need another vehicle to haul the cart. So we got this Transit. It worked out perfect. Not to mention it's super cute. You saw this beauty in our last video, and I'll eventually do a tour video of this one too, because she's too beautiful not to show off. We love it, it's made our lives easy. But for this video, we're going to focus on the hot dog cart. I'll give you a full tour of every nook and cranny on this cart, and you'd be really amazed what you can do with it. It's a pretty simple layout, but there's a lot to it. The brand is an all-American hot dog cart, and we haven't been able to find another one that looks anything like it. Since it mostly lives outside, we keep it covered with this really great cover, which is two gigantic barbecue covers sewn together. I was told that the seamstress broke multiple needles because the material was so heavy. It doesn't keep it 100% dry, but it protects all the important parts. And for the most part, everything else is waterproof. As you can see, it's pretty light. I can move it around by pushing, which really comes in handy when trying to squeeze it into small places. A lot of people book us because we can put this cart just about anywhere, and it's super convenient. The first thing I'll show you is the canopy. Not very many hot dog carts have this style of canopy. The first time I had to haul this hot dog cart, I had to remove the top completely and then strap all four legs together tight so that they didn't wobble so badly they would break. After doing this literally every time we moved the hot dog cart for the first 3 months, we knew we had to change something. So my husband came up with this telescoping pole system that made our lives a lot easier. This process is way easier to do with 2 people, but we had to design it so that I could do it by myself. I put it up one side at a time and stick the pins in halfway. They only go in halfway because the holes don't go all the way through until the correct height. Not having to remove that heavy canopy every time we moved made it possible for me to put these sticky LED lights in the top, which make it look really cute. We're almost there, and voila! Correct height. By the way, these poles could really use some sanding and painting. It has been pretty much out of use for the last half of 2020 as we got our new concessions trailer and the weather isn't so great, so we haven't been booking it a whole lot. You'll also notice it's a little dusty, so I'm going to clean it up really quick before we do the tour. This stainless steel cleaner works magic. Also, for the plexiglass, I used this Brilliant Eyes. It's a specific plexiglass cleaner to keep it looking clear. The state of California requires that your cooking area be enclosed, so this is what you'll see here. This is our metal door that folds down as a tray to keep our area enclosed. It also doubles as our food prep area, which is really convenient. This last pan is a steam pan for steaming hot dog buns. This is a false bottom. It was custom made and came with the cart, and I haven't been able to find one since. It's the best one I've ever found. So if anyone knows who sells these, please let me know. This one doesn't really get any heat. That's why it's not burned like the rest. Believe me, I've scrubbed them all with steel wool. This is literally as clean as they get. Now we're going to show you the heating element. This is a U-shaped burner originally made for a barbecue grill. When we bought the cart, it had individual cast iron burners, not for each pan, but for each set of pans. So there was one between these two and then one between the two next to it, and there was also one at the very end. So a total of 3 cast iron burners. It was a pretty efficient system, but the burners were super rusted and needed to be replaced one way or another. At the time, it seemed like a good idea to put one long burner in because we were going to be cooking a lot of things, but in hindsight, I wish we had stuck with the original system. We would have full use of all of the pans, and it would be easier to regulate temperatures between all of our different items. Here you can see our gas lines. That's for the water heater. It stays wide open all the time, and the other one is for propane to the burner. The regulator stays connected at all times, and because we live in California, we lock everything. Locks for the propane knobs, locks for the propane tanks, and this big red bar in the middle is just to keep them stabilized while we're rolling. We're big fans of these Kryptonite cables. They're just about the strongest cables you can buy, and that locks our propane tanks to the frame. I'm gonna get all of this unlocked and lit so that you can see exactly how it works. There's no water in the pan, so I'm gonna set them on top of the cooking enclosure, otherwise they'll get scorched. I'm usually really careful about setting systems in place so that I don't lose my locks and my keys, so I always just hang it right to the side of the propane tank. I always make sure my regulator is properly connected, and then I turn the knob on the propane tank, being very careful not to turn the gas knob for the burner on until the lighter is lit. Always make sure your lighter is lit before you turn your burner on. Moving now to the compartment below the burner. We've had to do quite a bit of work on this compartment. In here, I keep a bus tub full of essentials, lighters, a sandy bucket, sandy tabs, all kinds of stuff. You can see this little rubber gasket on top of that thing because I can't tell you how many times I cut my knuckles up on this thing. There used to be a slide out drawer here, but it was made of wood and pretty beat up, so we took it out. Just some of the essentials, lighter, I've got scissors, a thermometer, a magnetic paper towel holder, hot glove, extra tongs, always a good idea to have extra tongs, magnetic glove box, doesn't really fit any of the gloves I use, Sani tablets, the most convenient way to carry sanitizer, paper towels, extra lighters, always extra lighters. This bin back here just carries extra disposables like towels and paper towels and whatnot. Now to show some of the more important parts of the guts of this hot dog cart. This is a water heater. You can see the knobs here. I think it's a Camp Chef brand. I think we bought it for about $120 on Amazon. Super convenient, pretty easy to install. You can see the battery there, the battery charger, fire extinguisher, first aid kit, and inverter. And I'll show you exactly what all of that does here in just a sec. The reason you could see all of that so well is because there's a giant hole in the top of my hot dog cart where there used to be a cooler. The cooler has long since fallen out and the door deteriorated, and not to mention in the state of California, you cannot use a cooler to keep any of your food cold. You have to have mechanical refrigeration. Originally, I had purchased a small NSF-approved fridge that I had to lift on and off of the cart. It was super heavy and inconvenient, but eventually we got this really great car fridge. It plugs into the cigarette lighter in the back of the Transit and can stay on for 48 hours after the car is turned off. That makes it really convenient for shopping trips, especially in the summertime when it's like 100 degrees out and you have to make multiple stops. When the cooler door first fell off, I was having trouble getting the fridge to sit on top of the hot dog cart with that huge gaping hole there, so I had this custom stainless steel piece made by a metal shop nearby. Turning the fridge off because we won't be using it for a while. I have forgotten this piece on very rare occasion, and it makes it very difficult to set a fridge on top of that gaping hole. I have furniture sliders underneath it so that it slides back and forth, and there's a notch cut in it for the cord so that we can plug it into the inverter underneath. Taking it off now so that I can show you what's underneath it, and I have to warn you, my gimbal was giving me some trouble at this time, so I have committed the cardinal sin of filming upright, and I'm very sorry, but I think I can still get most of the video across. So you can see there's the water pump and the water heater that I showed you earlier. See, the gimbal's acting so weird. It was really hard to film in this angle. Behind the water heater is the water tank, and the freshwater fill is just above that. And there's the vent for the water heater. It's not very big because that water heater doesn't really put out a lot of heat. When parked, we always plug the hot dog cart in. There is a trickle charger, which charges the battery, which powers the inverter. This Genius model might have been $50 on Amazon, and it has levels so it can show you exactly how charged it is. Again, the inverter is hardwired to the battery. You can see my first aid kit here and my fire extinguisher. Please forgive the dust. It has been a little while since we've used this, but everything is Velcroed down and strapped down so that nothing moves while we're rolling. This here is a little switch that is wired to the outside of the cart so that I can turn it on if the cover's on and I don't have to reach in and actually hit the button on the inverter. The only thing plugged into the inverter right now are those LED lights. They do have a dimmer switch on them, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference. I usually just have them on at full blast. See, I'm dimming, but you can't really see. Now they're off. Now they're back on. The next thing I want to show is how the hand washing sink works with the water pump, water heater, fresh water, etc. So these two switches are hardwired to the battery. We used to have one switch for hot water and one switch for cold water, which meant we were running two pumps, but after a while we realized we only needed one pump and were able to plumb both hot and cold water lines through the same pump, which simplified things quite a bit for us. And as long as your gas lines are on, when you turn on your hot water knob, your pump pulls water through the hot water heater and you have hot water right away. My husband designed this super sophisticated wastewater system by installing a screw cap in a paint bucket. The hand wash sink water runs off into this bucket, and then we carry a separate bucket for hot dog water. Keeping them separate has made things a lot cleaner for me and easier to dispose of in our gray water receptacle at our commissary. As you can see, we can get quite a bit of water pressure through here, and it gets very hot right away. I highly recommend giving it a test before a health inspection though. Once or twice I have forgotten to turn this off, which led to a big blowout. I've burned out a couple of pumps, lost all my fresh water, and had a big mess to clean up. But back to my sophisticated wastewater system, the little top screws on so that it doesn't leak while you're driving, and then the big top screws off so you can easily dump your gray water once you get to your commissary. Here is the freshwater fill. You just unscrew the cap and fill with your fresh water. I think I have a 6-gallon tank in here. It's always been plenty of water for us, even at some of our busiest events. The last thing I want to show is the trailer tongue and some of the moving parts on it. I'm not going to actually hook the trailer up, but I will show you how everything works and, of course, more locks. So we put a tongue on it with, I think, a 2-inch ball. The hot dog cart is only about 600 pounds, I believe, so it's not very heavy. We only have one safety chain, I think, because we don't really need two when you're under a certain weight. I believe you only need two if you're over 800 pounds. This is the wiring for the tail lights and brake lights and everything with a super worn out plug. We go through about one of these a year. It just has to be rewired and replaced because it's so heavily used and they aren't really made to withstand as much use as we get out of them. So this safety cable is another Amazon purchase. I couldn't tell you how much it costs, but we used to have two. It just seemed like a waste of time because it's so light, it's really unnecessary. So we only have the one. We have a hand crank jack on it with a wheel so that it can be easily wheeled anywhere it needs to go. And as promised, 2 more locks. We have a tongue lock and a pin lock. I'm gonna move the camera so you can see the underside. Unlocking it drops the pin from where the tongue is supposed to go so that nobody can put this cart on their vehicle without removing this lock. It's super simple. You just put it on and push the button and it's good to go. Once again, because we live in California, we do have a need for a pin lock. This prevents someone from being able to steal the cart while it's on my vehicle. In California, people will steal anything that's not locked. So just because this thing is attached to my vehicle does not mean that somebody will not try to steal it. And I frequently have to make grocery store stops on my way to events, so this pin lock is essential to keep my cart from being stolen in broad daylight in a parking lot. And if you think that's crazy, make sure you stick around and subscribe because have I got some crazy stories for you. But seriously, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching this hot dog cart tour. I love this cart. It is the reason we are where we are today. It has pumped out some serious food at some well-attended events. I'm still blown away by how far it's come in just a few short years and look forward to many more in the future. Stick around and see what we come up with next.